Howdy. Welcome to all of my thumbnails. I was trying to find the one for today that said it was the Wild West stream. I don't know where I've put them. So we'll forget about that for now. Today, I've got 3 games to show you. And please chip in as we go with feedback to the devs if you can. I've got the stream chat open in OBS so I can see what you have in response to these games. This is Indies Under the Knife, a weekly stream where I take 3 or 4 games sent to me that are works in progress. I don't look at released games during this stream, and when I say released, I mean like commercially released games that have a price on them. And the reason for that is that I'm a game designer. I set this show up set this channel up to chat with people about game design and share my thoughts and opinions about game design and my professional experience doing it for a while and teaching it for a while. And so when I do this Indies Under the Knife stream, the purpose of it is for us to look at games that are still being worked on and maybe give them some feedback that they can actually take away and use as they develop their games. So it is not a marketing exercise for existing games. I do occasionally do streams like that, but that's for games that I just personally find interesting a lot of the time, or games I've played on this stream and then I want to go back and play them for a little bit longer because this stream only gives us like half an hour with each game maximum. So in terms of what we're looking at today, we've got Dracs After Dusk, which I think is it's going to be Cowboys and Vampires. We've got some very, very charming art here. It'll be interesting to see if we have any legibility problems with this one, because I really like minimalistic game aesthetics, and doing the limited color thing can be really cool, but it can also make a game hard to read visually. But we'll see what happens there. I'm just going to pop over to our Discord and put a stream alert on. Some folks in our Discord want me to ping them when we go live, so I will do that quickly now. Apologies for the delay. Very slowly getting my old man brain used to piloting all this stuff, but it takes a while. God forbid one day I end up going on Twitch at the same time. Although I have done a multi-stream to Twitch at the same time before, and someone was asking me earlier in the week, oh, when are you going to do Twitch as well? And the answer to that is when this channel makes enough money that I can stop doing freelance work, because the thing that makes streaming on Twitch different from streaming on YouTube is Twitch really expects you to be streaming at specific times over and over again on the same weekday. So if I get to a point where I don't have to do freelance design work, then I can say Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, streaming for 3 hours every day, and I'll always be on at those times. And then what I do will be appropriate for Twitch, but it's not appropriate for Twitch at the moment because that's the platform expectations. Whereas YouTube is much more set up for you to schedule streams at all sorts of different times and change them every week and stuff like that. So there's that. And you can say, oh, why don't you just stream in the evening? Well, I have kids. They're with me every other week. Like I have them for a full week and then not the next week. And that means that streaming in the evening isn't really an option unless I do it really, really late. And I don't want to do that. So we've got Dracs After Dark already downloaded. I'll check this one out first and then we'll jump over to the itch games after. We've got Dracs After Dark, and then the other 2 are called Arcane Drifter and Time Cowboy. So all of these are doing Wild West mixed with some other theme. And it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out in these different games. Dracs After Dusk first, and then we'll pop over to the itch games afterwards. Would you like to play the tutorial? Yes, probably.
Peace, over here, bucko. Use your movement keys to come closer and help me out.
Who is talking? Is it this guy?
I understand getting tossed in the clink last night, but I've sobered up and won't cause no further trouble. What? You lost the key?
Which character is speaking? There's a character there and a character there.
I see your keychain right there, hanging off your big old belt buckle. I know you got a key to every door in our town, being sheriff and all. Would you kindly press your F key while standing near to the jail door to pop her open?
Okay, so this is me. I'm a moustache with a hat on, and this is I'm the sheriff. This person is in the jail. They want me to let them out.
Gadzooks, Sheriff. We got an incoming bloodsucker. It's gonna tear down that there window. Here's your 6-shooter. I pickpocketed it off you last night.
It's a good intro. It's a good intro. Aim by moving your mouse and fire by left click. Right. The tutorial is over the game. What is going on here, my guys? Let me just start that again, and I'll run it in a window and see if it... I think there's something about resizing the game that is not playing well there.
Morning, Nath. Morning, Nathan.
Okay. Maybe it won't break if I keep it in a window like this.
And what? You lost the key? Well, I see your keychain. I know you got a key to every door. Would you kindly live there?
That's me fast forwarding the intro again.
Ah, here we go. There's a bloodsucker.
Now remember, Sheriff, that's a 6-shooter you're holstering. The only way to reload is to fire all 6 of your bullets. You better go repair the window in case another bloodsucker shows up.
Walk up to the hammer icon and hold down the E key.
Hold it down or just press it?
Well, it's not exactly Fort Knox, but it should hold for now.
Do we know when Fort Knox was built? I don't know.
One more thing before I skedaddle to the armory. You can spend doubloons to build these highfalutin turrets. Walk over to that marker, press F to open the menu, and then press E to confirm.
Okay. I will. I will. These are turrets, apparently. Okay. So we got a very, very small play area in this. There's little orange things that are bullets. I'm fixing that. There's not a lot of feedback when I'm fixing the window. There's sound, but it's quite a bit quieter than everything else, and you can't really use sound alone to communicate something. Unless it's like an atmospheric thing or something in the distance. If it's something the player is actually doing, I think you need a bit more. What are you making, Nath? Does it have cowboys or vampires in it? I really think we want to like flip this gun sprite depending on what angle it's at as well. Just a little quality of life thing, but it would add... It would kind of make the thing feel a little bit more polished. So when the gun is just doing a full 360, I would, you know, read the angle of the gun, and then when it's at within certain degrees, flip the gun around so that it looks more like the... When I do this, you know, my gun should be flipping rather than rotating. I mean, still rotating, but the sprite should flip at the same time. I don't like how little screen space we have around the area we're defending. You know, I could play this. I could happily play this game with everything scaled down like to 50% and more visibility of things coming in. Because at the moment we get like 1, 2. You get like less than 3 seconds before an enemy, between an enemy like appearing on the edge of the screen and getting to the house. I also need to stop using multiple shots on single enemies when I don't need to. So the white vampires take 1 shot. So I really think, yeah, it's kind of... A lot of this still feels a bit prototypey, like these windows and stuff that you have to defend. I'm usually okay with things being a bit abstract, but it's just, I think it's a mismatch between having characters that feel like the art has been quite considered and then these barriers that are just a bit more abstract. They feel very kind of programmer arty still. Doing a bit better now that I've stopped using too much ammo on one enemy. And I know I've been taught that I can build turrets, but I can't really work out... Ah, there we go. Can't work out when I can build a turret. Right, that's just telling me this is a bullet turret, I guess? Right, you're doing turret selection with the arrow key, with the WASD, which feels very odd when we've got a mouse available as well. I would stick to using WASD for the movement of the character, and then if we're going to build a turret and we're going to select from a menu, then use the mouse if we're using the mouse to shoot. It's just the natural option. I don't really have a way to justify that, but it just feels very unnatural to go from walking around clicking to standing still and then use the walk buttons to control the menu, you know? It's a game where you're clicking a lot, so use clicking for the menus. Got a nice flow to it once you get going, though. And the way the reloading works, basically you can't manually reload unless you run out of ammo, which is actually quite a nice constraint because it makes you have to really think about which enemy to prioritize, and I quite like that. Okay. We can go into another area now. Yeah, I really kind of feel like I want the camera pulled back a bit on this and a bit more of a grace period before they reach the building. Yahoo!
That dead-eye shooting done got you a new personal best score of 155. Your previous best score was 104.
My shirt is the right colour for this game today. That's pretty cool. Maybe I can... 1 second. Let's give it another go. It's got a good flow to it. It still feels very prototypey. Like I think in terms of gameplay stuff, the highest priority things for me are just it's a little bit too zoomed in. I think the characters look great, and that means that the lack of art in all of the kind of surrounding building feels worse than, because we've got like very, you know, reasonably well thought out character designs in a very abstract space. So, and I think if we zoomed it out so that we had more leeway on what we can see coming in, that would solve two things. It would make the gameplay a little bit easier choosing what to prioritize, and it would make us feel more lenient about the what's going on with the pixel art as well. And then there's just like that UX thing of how do you choose the towers? Okay, so I'm stopping them with one shot and then killing them with the next one. I have a sneaking suspicion that I got behind on my emails and didn't actually send out the developer invites for this one, which is a shame, but... Hello, orange face person. Step right up. The shop. See, look, like... too much time pressure to do things that we haven't really been taught how to do. And anything like shops where I'm needing to like consider information or read some text about an item or something, you need to let me pause the game at that stage. Like the general flow of the game. If you've got yeah, something like a shop where I have to look at items I've never seen before and decide what to buy, that needs to be its own game state that's not like in the arcadey portion of the game. But in terms of the general like gunplay of this, I'm dying a lot, but I do feel like I'm gradually getting better at it, which is one of the first tests for any sort of skill-based game to check if it actually works as a skill-based game. It's like, do people gradually get better at it the more they play? Yes. Okay, well that's good. That means you've got a game with some degree of mastery that is not just like too easy from the outset, and also, you know, gives people opportunities to learn from their mistakes. And if you are watching playtesters and they don't seem to get better at your game, then it could be a problem with the playtester, but often it just means your game doesn't teach itself, you know? And my failures in this game are at least teaching me how to do it better. But the kind of UX problems are making me not really want to engage with those other features, like building the turrets or using the shop, because I know they sort of happen in a context where the game is not giving me room to breathe and think about what I'm doing. You know, panicking, running around, freaking out that I'm going to die is good when we're doing fighting. But when we're doing building or buying things, it's not good. You can't really mix those things. You need to let people have their moment of calm to do that stuff. There's not really any good gameplay reason to make people like read item descriptions while they're being attacked, you know? It's really an implementation kind of shortcut thing that people do. Oh, we won't pause the game when you go to the shop because that would require a different architecture for the game. So, well, that's not a game design reason. That's a corner cutting technical thing. And then people will attribute that stuff to difficulty and they'll say, well, Dark Souls doesn't have a pause menu. And it's like, well, yes, but there are also moments in that game where you can go into the item menu in a place where nothing is attacking you, right? You can use your understanding of the game world to say, right, I've cleared this room, nothing else is coming, now I can go and look at my items. Whereas a game like this doesn't really give you enough breaks to do that. It seems to be sort of pseudo-open. I can go back to a previous room and fight the wave in whatever room I want to, which is unusual. Okay, I'm going to give it one more run, because we've only got 3 games for this stream, so I can give things a little bit longer than half an hour. I'm going to do one more run, and I'm going to try and actually advance past the second room instead of hanging around at the start like I have been doing. They're still able to eat the doors even when they're in that kind of downed state as well, which is... So I thought the whole point of having that down state was like, okay, you shoot them and they're down, and now they can't really do anything, but you do need to finish them off, or they get back up again, right? That's where the vampire thing comes on. But they can still munch the doors when they're down. Right. Open the shop. I bought some ghosts. I don't know what they are. Maybe they're extra lives.
So this is the would-be hero attempting to almost pity your foolish pursuit. Now die.
That's my cowboy ghost. Yeah, the individual bits of art, the characters in this are great. Some of the location stuff is great. I think we need to pull the camera back. I think maybe not being afraid to... I feel like it's a stylistic choice to use grey and never go all the way down to like a closer to black colour, but it is making it feel harder to read for me. Like, I feel like if the non-play area was darker, then we'd have a bit more contrast between where the play area is and what's not the play area, but yeah. I think I just want a little... I want the art to communicate what's going on with these windows a bit better as well, you know? Because the bar fills up and then they come through. So I think what's happening is there's like a collision on the window that is turned off when that orange bar has gone all the way up, that orange damage bar. And it's quite a good use of the color scheming of this, that those orange damage bars that are supposed to be... They're supposed to be the thing you pay attention to most. It's kind of like your hull in FTL, right? I'm not... Initially, I'm not worried about my cowboy getting hurt. I'm worried about them smashing the windows in. So those are kind of a key mechanic, and we need to give them their due. And from a kind of UI point of view, having this orange bar that fills up is a really nice use of the orange thing, of like that kind of limited color palette aspect. But I think I want a little bit more kind of in-world visual kind of what's going on with this door. Because once they're smashed open, they don't look smashed open. They're just a... And it's gonna be difficult, because if you wanted to like upgrade all of the art of this and get it kind of in line with that armory building that we just saw where the boss was, then we need to think about camera angles as well, because at the moment we're seeing all of these from directly above, sort of like Monaco or something like that. So it's sort of a forced perspective, but then we got this door that is from a 3/4 angle. I'm gonna need a lot of thought to go into the kind of visual design of those things. Right, can I purchase stuff before the shop disappears? Yes. Okay. The building turrets just doesn't work for me. I need a proper break between waves to build turrets. I don't want to be doing an awkward, panicky menu while stuff is attacking me. And I don't think that's a skill issue. I think that would be something that would still annoy me even if I played this for a couple of hours. Because like using a little fiddly menu to choose how to spend a resource is just not something you want to do while you're being attacked. I think there's situations where you can make that fun, but people aren't going to be very forgiving of it in a small game like this. They'll just move on if they find it too annoying. Right, so I'm in the shop for turrets. I put a turret down. It's got a bullet hovering around it to say what it is, I think. We've got 2 turrets here. You see how long it's taken me to get to a point where I'm actually able to build the turrets. I don't feel very conscious of my resources up here. Am I getting one of them for each vampire I kill? Is that how that works? Are these turrets doing it? Are the turrets turreting? Yes, they are. Okay, cool. Right. See, once you've got the hang of the turrets, a little bit easier to survive. But now, I'm supposed to go into another room. I don't want to go into another room because I've just invested in putting turrets here. Maybe I'll try it next. After we finish this wave. I'm trying to fix these windows. Too many. Yeah, that stopped being fun there.
Lots of little things there. UX of fiddly menus while you're being attacked, not great. Same with the shop. Wasn't clear what I was buying or anything like that. And it's really interesting, actually, because there was a tutorial in that game. We played through a quick tutorial. But after we played the tutorial and we were in the main game, there were lots of UX decisions that made the game difficult to play. And I've seen this pattern quite a lot. People build a tutorial for their game when they might be better off focusing on sorting out the like core UX problems of the game first. Because like front loading a bunch of information saying this is how you play the game is not the same as making the game intuitive and accessible to play in the first place. And you don't really need a tutorial until you've dealt with most of those issues. So if you're working on a game at the moment, I would kind of concentrate on the UX issues that exist every part of the moment-to-moment game. Don't worry about tutorials until you've got all of that stuff. So if your game's relatively simple, you can stick most of the tutorial information on the itch page, right? That won't wash for something like a Steam game. You know, once you're at the point where you're commercially releasing your game or sending out to lots and lots of people to playtest, then you do need a tutorial that is in the game itself. But a lot of the time, a tutorial is not going to save your game from having bad UX. So if you have a wave-based game, and there's no point where the game just pauses and lets me make a decision without worrying that a new wave is going to come, okay, you might say that's a design decision about difficulty, but I just, you know, even in the most overwhelming of these games, I haven't seen a game that does that, right? You know, Enter the Gungeon has points where you could just put the controller down and go and make a cup of coffee or whatever. Vampire Survivors has that as well. And there are points in this game where you need that, and they're just not there. And then I think there's just loads of areas of polish that you could improve on that. Like I would bring the camera out like 50%. I would make the background behind all the grey gameplay stuff, I would make it darker. I would make it like closer to a charcoal black so that you have some contrast between the play area and the place where the vampires are coming in from. I would make the vampires start right at the edge and maybe take about, 30% longer to get to the building, but you can see them for longer, so you can plan a bit more. And then the turrets start to get some relevance then, because the turrets are like a long-term strategic element of like, where's the best place to place this thing? I don't really get enough time to think about where to put them. At the moment, it doesn't seem like the game has a choice between turrets, which is kind of... they just seem to all just be a duplicate of your gun. And if we zoomed out a bit, if we made the waves slower and we could do things like bring a big group of vampires in from one side, then it starts to become like a thoughtful decision about where I put my turret or where I move my guy. At the moment, it's purely reactive. And I think that kind of makes me think about how much information plays into making game mechanics interesting, right? Because if a player can see more, that gives them more context to make decisions in. And if everything is just very kind of claustrophobic and you've got, each of those vampires, from the moment they appeared on the screen to the moment they were doing damage to the house or coming in and like directly threatening me, was less than 2 seconds per each of those. So at that end bit where we had like 20 or more on the screen, you sort of multiply that. It's like, I'm not really able to react in any meaningful... Well, I am just purely reacting, right? I'm not really able to do anything kind of more meaningful than just react to the thing. At which point, I may as well just be playing like a dance mat or something like that. Because the sense of being a character moving around a space becomes completely empty. Because it's just, there's stuff you collide with and there's stuff you need to shoot. And this is the closest thing to you, so shoot that. Really neat art. Lots of cool stuff going for it, but it's going to need a little bit more attention to those sorts of things if it's going to have any legs as a kind of bigger game, I think. Let's check out Time Cowboy. So, Time Cowboy.
A fast-paced retro cowboy FPS about a stubborn cowboy named Hank blasting his way through history, trying to figure out who's dragging him through it. Demo includes the entire first era, Western, 3 unique weapons, 2000s inspired voice acting, a couple of cutscenes, 6 enemy types, 3 difficulties. Okay. Come on, Time Cowboy. Let's see what you're up to. Hold R to restart. Damage numbers. We've got some interesting... I love spinning my revolver. Auto skips cutscenes. Auto skips cutscenes and boss fight transitions cutscenes. Stops a stinger from playing when gaining the Truly a Cowboy action log. Okay. I do like me a highly stylized retro shooter with weird mechanics. I didn't realize quite how much I enjoyed that until recently. Really liked Blood Thief. Really liked that weird boss rush game played a few weeks ago. Can't remember its name, sorry. Hypergun or something. We're going to play it on hard. Respectable. Your boots shall get scuffed. Enemies deal more damage and are quicker. Okay. We'll go for the respectable difficulty level. Chapter 1. A mild western. The mouse is really unsensitive, and I don't know if that's intentional. That's better. Punch, uppercut. Right. I'm gonna get some visibility problems with this, I think.
Goddamn. Don't even need to use my guns.
Right. We need a bit more... I think in an area like this... Space twice to double jump. It's not really a double jump, it's like a jump with an air dash. It says click to shoot. I haven't been given a gun, mate. There's a hat up there. There's a hat in the sky. Standing still is a death sentence.
Don't even need to use my guns.
This is fun. The movement feels really nice. We've got this very fast movement. The jump is very strange because the jump is like it kind of launches you forward, and it doesn't really care about your existing momentum. So it's not like a situation where you need to be running forward to jump forward. So if I'm just standing totally still and I jump, it does this like standing forward leap, and then I'm able to. I can just always trigger another jump even when I'm in the air. This is so strange. It would almost make sense if my character was on a horse, but they're not. What do you call a retired old cowboy? Deranged. Ah, here we go. It's gun time. I've got some sort of bullet time thing I can go into. That's fantastic. That is such a cool stylistic thing. So to do the kind of sights aim, slows it down, and does the kind of good, the bad, and the ugly film thing. Whatever this is. That's great. Okay. I think one of the things I want with this level design is just a bit more clarity where the edge of something is or where there's a hole. Because that was kind of one of the things that Blood Thief did very, very well. And I think it's just having a strong contrast between the top and the sides of things. Like this, the problem here is we have this sand texture, and then the sand texture goes down here and along the side. So you can't clearly see the edge of the thing. And I don't think that's a great choice, because you want the game like this, you want people's failures to feel like they're their own, and not just because the game did something annoying to them, you know. But it generally feels pretty good. The jump is very strange, but it does give the game its own character. Oh, yeah, that was good. Now we've got red barrels. And they destroy the walls by the looks of things, which is neat. And an annoying TNT man that blows himself up. Every friendship group has an annoying TNT man who blows himself up, and if you don't know which one is you, then you're probably the annoying TNT man who blows himself up. Maybe they didn't blow up a wall. Maybe that was already there. I'm not sure. Yeah, you can blow up the wall. What have I got now? How did I do that direct up jump then? Is that just what this gun does as its secondary fire? That's very strange. Yeah, so the shotgun has a jump as its secondary fire, which is very strange. And that means that now I can... Got punching. I've got my pistol that has its kind of bullet time as the secondary fire. And the shotgun inexplicably allows me to jump, even though it has nothing to do with the weapon itself. Whoa! Okay, you can sort of grenade jump using the shotgun, which is fun. Just skip the first bit of the level, that's fine. Oh, that guy. That freaking guy.
Read the newspaper through you.
I get the enemy billboarding as a sort of development constraint, but one of the issues with doing it in a game like this is you spend quite a lot of time above the enemies. So I think you need to billboard them at the other axis as well, so that when you're above them, they sort of look up at you and you still get the full plane to shoot at. Because otherwise, when you're above them, they're kind of well, turned away from you, and you can only just see the top of the billboard, which is no good. You done? You done? Yeah, I like feeling like I'm on the moon. Like, if I were to try and make an FPS, it would definitely have this kind of level of insane jumping. But the difference between the jumps on the different guns is kind of crazy. In a good way, I think. Right. Is that just... Did that open up after I cleared everything here? Is that what's going on?
Cowboy. Shot 18. Freshness 5. Kill shot. Don't know what that means.
Okay, that's a list of all of the, like, score modifier things I got.
What kind of attire do ghosts of cowboys wear? Boots.
Gotcha. This guy. This friggin' guy.
Now you have no place for anybody to love.
Oh. I was like... I managed to shoot the guy from above, but it blew me completely off course. That's an interesting dynamic. So I can jump with this gun, and then switch guns in the air, I think. Not if that guy does that, though. Great cool mechanics here. Not amazingly telegraphed of like why this gun has the air boots attached to it and stuff like that, but in terms of just how it all feels to play when you put it all together, it's really fun. I'm glad we don't have the, like, instant one-shot kill thing that Blood Thief has in this, because it would just be too hard with all of these bullets coming in. Nice.
You're a goddamn punk. Die here. I'm gonna tear you limb from limb.
I'm not sure how I feel about this parry mechanic.
You're dead. You're dead.
Very difficult to time. I just generally hate parry mechanics. Right, okay. Can I get over there? Managing to get back on the platform when you've been pushed that far off is very, very satisfying. It feels quite fluky when you manage to do it, but... Oh, I hate those TNT guys. They're the worst. Yeah, there's a lot of moments in this game that just give you a really nice opportunity to feel skillful. And, again, if we can kind of compare it to the last game, it's like, okay, I know it's a different sort of game. This is a first-person speedrunning game. The last one is a sort of wave defense game from the top down, but I really think what I was talking about at the end of that last game is kind of present here. It's like, how aware of the context that I'm in can I be at any given moment? And I think if you have to... the difficulty of your game has to come from just piling on more enemies in the same situation rather than varying the situation or giving people a different angle on it or whatever, then you're going to have problems. Such a weird dash mechanic. Ah, nice. You can jank jump up there. When in doubt, do a jank jump. Can I get out of here? I don't think I can. I keep forgetting that punching people heals you as well. I haven't been using the punch. It taught us that right at the beginning, but I think maybe I didn't spend enough time using the punch mechanic for it to stay in my memory. This is another thing about, like, the difference between tutorializing something versus, like, actually onboarding a player into using it. Like, tutorializing it, we often just think of as, like, telling the player they can do this thing. And onboarding someone into a mechanic is, like, giving them an opportunity to learn it, where they don't really have enough choice to not use it, so they can't kind of skip it, you know? So, there's a lot of times where I'm respawning with a gun. And I think if I had to kind of work my way through the chain of weapons again a little bit more, then I would remember to use my punch. But, hello. What are you doing up there?
Goddamn fool.
If I skipped some level, there's an exit there. Because that's something that opens when I fought these guys. Who's that? A new guy. It's a new kind of guy.
Damn fool.
Yeah, the revolver just always spins. I love it. It's such a dumb idea, but it's very fun. Right, has that opened the exit now? Oh no, we still got some guys over here.
Feels about in the next lap. You don't get so close.
The way they jolt up in the air when you uppercut them is fantastic. It's a note written in almost illegible handwriting. Dear fellas, what the hell are y'all doing? I've spent a full $1 on yours. Do you know what I could have gotten with $1? 4 cups of coffee. If you do not stop Hank and he kills me, I will torture you all in hell. Thank you, Mr. Milton. Gunslinger, action rank. Don't know what it means, but it sounds provocative. Dear other fellas, don't be like those other yellow bellies. Since I've spent $1.25 on yours, kill Hank and I shall pay you all another 25 cents. With that type of money, I expect perfection. I could have spent that on 6 cups of coffee. Thank you, Mr. Milton. Right, Mr. Milton. I don't know who you are, but I'm gonna shoot you. Because that's the cowboy way.
Read the newspaper.
This music's a banger. Sort of giving like a... It's reminding me of Ultima Underworld, which is a tonally very different game, but it had some Sodriono is sleeping. What is that a cat? I'm not gonna shoot a cat. Cowboy code. Never shoot a cat. Does the game need me to shoot a cat? What kind of place is this? Oh, Sodriano, I think I'm gonna have to shoot you. I'm sorry. The game won't let me. What is this strange heck hole I find myself in? Are you trying to do some sort of puzzle? Is that what this is? What is going on here? What is this place? Is this just the end of the demo? Is this where we end up and then there's nothing else? It's a very strange way to end it, if that's the case. Maybe I need to go back up. Picked up a key. So I have a sneaking suspicion that when you pick up a key, it just opens the door for that key, which makes navigation a little bit challenging. But you have to remember where the door was, because it's the door takes up a whole wall. So close. Okay, so I think I did have to go down here, but I'm not sure why. Oh yeah. Go down here to get the green key. Then go back up using the power of jumping. Generally finding this quite forgiving in terms of difficulty. I think the Dynamite guys feel sort of like out of line with the difficulty of the rest of the game because they sort of instant kill you. And all of the gunplay is much more like the damage you take is very incremental. Not sure where the green door is. It's very difficult to navigate areas like this. It's like, I'm all for kind of very abstract boomer shooter retro graphics and stuff, but you still need to make areas visually distinct so that people can remember the kind of relationships between the spaces as they move around them. And I don't think we have enough of that here, really. But there's a TNT guy over there. I can see him in his little red outfit. There we go. Seamus, we've got one more game after this, which it looked like it might be a deck builder. I'm not sure. I didn't read it before we started. So yeah, I'm letting them run on a little bit longer. This one I kind of really enjoy. Makes me want to play the whole thing. There's obviously loads of areas. You know, this is a game that is kind of deliberately a bit graphically wonky, right? And there are still, regardless of that, there are still some things where I think there could be more polish, like death animations, making the environment a bit clearer when you're in one area versus another, making the visual edges of things a bit clearer so that you can jump a bit better. But I kind of like the sense of humor that's inherent in how kind of silly a lot of this is. I like the revolver that spins forever. I like the ridiculous size of the jumps. That kind of feels really fun. But yeah, this is generally doing a lot of things that I like. And I think I really, really like, you know, the whole boomer shooter thing. I'm not really interested in it from an aesthetic point of view. I'm interested in, like, what does that style allow you to do? And one of the things that happen with FPS is when they start to get more realistic, it's like the sense of space and everything else has to get realistic. Like the size of a jump gets more realistic because your character looks more realistic. And it doesn't have to be that way, but that seems to have been the way things have gone since games have got more visually realistic. And I really like the kind of the mechanical weirdness that we tend to get with these games, with these more like retro, janky retro visuals. Like it comes to signal, one thing comes to signal the other, right? I see a game that looks like this and I sort of know it's going to be bizarre and over the top. If I saw a game that had like a boomer shooter visual style and it didn't have crazy jumping or some sort of odd, surreal mechanic to it, I would probably be disappointed at this stage now. Ah! Big guy. Oh. He's dead. Did him in... Right. I really like that. That's Time Cowboy. Zoomer shooters. Yeah. Man, don't get me started on people trying to imitate Fortnite. That's kind of what every VC-funded game studio wants their developers to do, even though it's not a reasonable ask. It's the same pipe dream as everyone who's ever designed a card game wanting to make Magic the Gathering, you know? It's not even that it's unrealistic to try and make something of that quality, it's that multiplayer games have a sort of network effect thing, and you're never going to get people to stop playing Fortnite and come and play your game if they're a Fortnite gamer. Important. Read before continuing. By accessing and playing this early version of Arcane Drifter, you agree to the following terms. You acknowledge that this version of Arcane Drifter is under active development and not publicly released. You agree not to share, stream, record, or distribute any part of the game, including visuals, gameplay footage, screenshots, files, or internal information, without written permission from the developers, which I have. Feedback. Your feedback is appreciated but not required. If provided, you grant us permission to use it in any way to improve the game. You understand that this is a pre-release build and may contain bugs, placeholder content, or unfinished systems. Ownership. All content, designs, names, and assets within Arcane Drifter are the property of the developers. This agreement does not grant you any ownership or rights to distribute the game or its contents. We've got a pixel art guy. We've got some very sort of vector art cards. Something tells me I'm going to struggle with this a little bit, but let's see what it is. Yes, you can have some metrics. Click a card to send it to your queue. Oh, is this going to be real time? Please don't be real time. Real time with loads of text. Okay, so we're doing Slay the Spire type stuff with cards, but it's in real time. And these have loads of information on. But the kind of countdown on those sort of MOBA looking abilities are the cards that I've previously played going into a queue, so I do get a little bit of time to read. Lots of different fonts as well. Too much information for a choice 1 minute into a game. Just... I think some people get excited by that, so I never would say don't do this. Because I know some players see something that looks complicated and that excites them. But personally, you asked me to make a choice of what thing to get 3 seconds into a game and there's that much information on each thing. It's just like, don't care yet. Don't care about your game. I have no quests. This is an interesting menu. Very interesting menu design here. Is this where I am? That's a menu. That's me. Charge time. When a card is added to your queue, it begins charging. The time it takes to fully charge is called its charge time, which is this up in the top. After a card resolves, it enters a cooldown phase, and it doesn't return to your deck until the end of the cooldown. This is what it does. These are types of things, like the class of the card, I guess. Clicking on holding a card before sending it to the queue fills the exert gauge. Okay, so you've got like alternate versions of a card if you use the exert mechanic. Each card is influenced by at least one of 3 attack powers. As your character levels up, you'll receive 5 stat points that you can distribute to your stats. Melee, ranged, or magic. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, the cards, like, having an icon for a concept like damage or something generally is a good idea. We've got some kind of choose your own adventure stuff here, which is cool. In the dirt, a faint object reflects a bit of light that doesn't make sense. I'm going to ignore it. Okay, so this marker is where my character is. And then these are the options where it's like, I can go into my journal. And I can go into my inventory. These are equipment that I have. Do I actually wear those? Do I put them on? And that adds a card to my deck. Okay. And I can put my Jolting Cow Skull into my thing. And it gives me a Hush spell. The relationship between some of these items and the ability that they give you is not very strong as well. Rallying Spectacles gives me Battle Cry. So is that a choice that the developer has made? Or is it proc gen, where if an item is rallying, it gives you Battle Cry? But I wouldn't associate Spectacles with giving me a Battle Cry rally ability. Very weird relationships between what the items are and what they do. In a secluded area, you discover a mesmerizing sight, an AI-generated fountain that doesn't look like anything else in the game. I don't care about these options. I want to play the core gameplay. You've given me okay, I need to click on these guys to do that, don't I? Queued card tells. So this is telling us what the enemy is going to do, maybe? So... Oh no, they tell it quick high-level insight into the card's effects so you can read the battlefield at a glance. Do I get to know what they're doing though? Ah, okay, we can do a pause. That's great. That's what I need for a game like this. But I can't play the card while it's paused? And I'm always just... Okay, I'm always choosing between two things. I like the kind of general layout of the battle screen is great. The VFX of the characters fighting is pretty good. This in-world interface for the health is pretty good. There are too many mixed styles as far as I'm concerned. Like, this style and these pixel art characters, it's kind of like they look quite polished, but they're pushing in different directions overall. And I can understand having a game where you have pixel art in one area and not in others. But I think maybe there's just a lack of consistency here generally. Where, you know, you need to just pick a lane and stay in it. Because we've got some sort of pixel art on different styles in the background here. And I would expect, like, this style in the background, like, and this should be reflected in the illustrations on the card. But again, I'm just seeing quite a lot of, like, I think these look hand-drawn, or like they've come from an asset pack, but then I've seen other little bits of assets that look like they're AI, and that's probably why so much of this game looks inconsistent. With this choose one, this is way too spread out across the whole screen, right? If you're telling me to make a decision and you're giving me three options, put them in the middle 50% of the screen. Don't stretch them all the way to the edge, because what you do then is you make this one take up the focal point of the screen rather than having the set of three as the focal point of the screen, because this is in my central vision and I have to kind of look to see these, and it makes them feel deprioritized. So, you know, just because you've only got one thing on the screen doesn't mean it should take up the whole screen. There's a reason why these choices tend to be centralized rather than spread out over the whole screen. Pipe. Right, let's just focus on doing the combat, because I feel like that is, well, I mean, that is what the game is, right? I don't really care about the choose your adventure type stuff until we're... Okay, I choose my first card and then the combat starts. And then mostly I'm picking between these two things. And I can pause the game to read my cards, which is a good decision. But yeah, I think there's a lot of keywords here where we really want them to be icons. You know, add one burn marker. That should be a burn marker or a static marker. That should just be a little icon for what a burn or a static is. But also, if I've got two cards that deal damage, right? There is nothing about this enemy or what it's doing that, right, I've got cooldowns on the enemy over here or its moves. There's no tooltip to tell me what they are. And so nothing I'm doing feels like it's in direct response to this enemy beyond just trying to deal as much damage as possible. And I think this is a really good example of what happens when you try and do something different with the genre, but you don't really think about why the genre works in the way it does initially, right? If we think of like a real-time sort of hero-driven game where you're piloting a hero around and triggering special moves, think of Dota or League of Legends. when you play that game, it's not just about your moves, it's also about situational awareness of like looking at the battlefield and knowing what the other characters can do and using your moves in response to them. And that is what you need in a kind of real-time tactics game with a character driven by using different powers. We don't have that here. It's just, here is an enemy, pile attacks on. And, you know, if you follow the development of Slay the Spire and you watch how Slay the Spire was designed, adding in the enemy telegraphing their attacks, like, changed the entire game, right? And that's why that's in there. And, like, games following it have had that feature, because otherwise there's nothing for you to have, there's nothing for you to need to exercise situational awareness of, right? And that's what you're doing in a game. You're looking at a situation, and then whatever tools you have at your disposal, whether it's a gun that you aim and shoot, whether it's a wall jump ability, whatever it is responding to the situation. The situation here is always effectively the same. The enemy has some health, and I need to just like combo these cards together to deplete the health as quickly as possible. That's not particularly interesting. That's not making the best use of what a deck builder is, or what a kind of traditional turn-based Slay the Spire type deck builder is, and it's not really making the best use of what a like real-time tactics game would be either. You know, I can't really see. It feels like one of those mobile RPGs like Puzzle and Dragons and stuff that is really just about spamming things, which is like, you know, built on the old sort of Pokemon or very old Final Fantasy model where you're just kind of spamming moves and you can kind of no-brain it, which just, if I'm doing that, I would rather be playing an action game, right? Otherwise, I'm playing an action game by clicking on buttons in an interface and not controlling a character, which is like the worst of both worlds. Yeah, I don't know. There's a couple of things in this game that feel reasonably polished in terms of how they've been implemented, but like the core game design idea of it is just, it's not delivering on what I would play a kind of real-time hero-driven tactics thing like Dota for, and it's not delivering on what I would play a deck builder for either. And so far, like when I level up, it's like choose between these things. Okay, I mean, do they combo? Maybe. Am I going to pay enough attention while I'm playing this game to try and build up combos? Probably not. I'll just go, okay, I'll get the slash, and then it's not gone in my deck, because in order for it to go in my deck, I need to do something with these items. I need to put my quilted armor on that gives me slashing, right? So there's even just a lack of thought about how the items relate to the abilities that they give you. That the leather armor of scales gives me a fortify card. That makes sense. The sharpened quilted armor gives me a slash card. That doesn't make sense at all. So we've got, you know, we've established a level of kind of abstraction of like, okay, fortify has a shield on it, but it is a defensive move. So it makes sense that a shield or some other piece of armor would give me that ability. Why does the sharpened quilted armor give me slash? Well, it's the keyword sharpened, right? So maybe we're doing some item prop gen stuff like you would get in Diablo, where that adjective sharpened is attributing to the ability slash. But this is not helping the item. If you think of like items are, if you've got a skill based RPG, well, not an RPG where a character is learning skills, right? And they can get those skills innately, or they can get them from an item. The item is meant to perform a sort of mnemonic function of helping you to remember what it does. And having a piece of armor that does a sword ability, just adding the word sharpened to it is not enough, because it's still an armor, so I'm going to associate it with giving me a defensive ability rather than a sword thing. Yeah. There's a lot of kind of kitchen sink design stuff going on here, and I don't think it all really points at anything that is giving me much to kind of think about as a player. It's like... burning playing cards. Oh, they give me Fireball, which I already have, right? What does a playing card have to do with burning? I mean, it's Gambit from X-Men if you fill in the gaps with your imagination. Thank you, 50 gold. And another image that is probably AI generated that didn't need to be. Yeah, but even then, if you want your armor to be offensive, then why is it giving me a direct attack, right? I feel like the armor should give you some ability that bolsters your attack if you wanted that, or you know, maybe it's like armor of speed that lets you your other abilities do kind of faster stuff. It just feels lazy, like that, and it's it's not a coincidence that a game that has loads of AI art in also has lazy design, because it's not been thought about. It's just been kind of thrown together. There's lots of stuff here that probably took loads of time to do, but the time hasn't been spent on the important things. It's like, let's make something that looks like a video game as quick as possible. I don't care about any of these options because the core combat isn't interesting. The core combat is spamming things. Is this going to be... Yes, I do want to leave the tutorial area. I just want to play a bunch of combat without the game trying to make me do inventory management, without the game trying to do story stuff. Just let me do a series of combat so I can understand the combat mechanics and decide whether I care about the rest of the game. Why have you given me a skip button that doesn't skip? I know you can. You'll come rolling into town looking for a living. Okay, I'm gonna skip this. An unknown menace that lives in the mine is stealing children and killing people. The Drifter will investigate. Okay, that's fine by me. Shops. I don't care about any of this. I just want to go and do combat. I want to know if the combat of this game is interesting enough. Town is your save point. Yeah, okay. There's like a really broad game design thing here of like, let people do the core activity of your game for a decent amount of time before you introduce loads of metagame stuff. Because it's you need people to know that they want to play your game before you start telling them about loads of stuff about upgrading or the story or anything like that. Yeah, the summary when you skip it was good. Right, if I just do this, will I be considerably penalised versus if I actually think about it? That's the test for a game like this. Okay, I lost less than 100 health by just hammering the options and not looking at what they were. I'm going to do that for one more combat, and then after that I'm going to actually do a considered combat. Although, again, there's not enough. Lost about 20 health that time. I think the next one is a boss, so I'm going to try and pay attention to the next one. But this is a problem, right? This is a problem. Yes. Yeah, Stanley in the chat said, the combat seems, don't care what you do, it will do something, right? This is a problem, and not only is this a problem that should have been resolved before all of this other stuff in the game was built, right? We don't need an inventory system. We don't need a world map. We don't need a story. We don't need any of these things until the core gameplay of your game works as intended. And I'm almost certain that you did not intend for someone to be able to win the combat in this game by just clicking randomly. So this is what happens if you develop a game in isolation and you either don't show it to people or you just kind of show it to people who are impressed by how it looks. And you don't focus on actually does the core gameplay work before you move on and make loads of other stuff. I've seen this over and over again. It's always really disappointing. It's always really frustrating. And I think it's really a product of people people approach game development as gamers. And as gamers, they see full games. And they think, what I need to do is get my game to being what seems like a full game with all of the parts of a full game as quickly as possible. So it should have a story, it should have all of this content, it should have a tutorial, it should have all of these things. And they haven't gone through the process to actually determine whether they have a game that needs all of those things yet. And if you have what on the surface looks like a tactical or strategic combat game, and the player can just click random options and win, then you haven't like solved the basic design thing. Right, here's our big boss. Here's our 2000 health big boss. This is supposed to be a hard boss, right? So I shouldn't be able to do my no brain option anymore. See if we can no brain it. See if we can just click random options and still beat the boss again. There's so much like stuff here to make the game appear complicated in terms of all this information on the screen about stats and damage ranges and stuff. But it's not actual genuine complexity, because if you don't pay attention to that information, it doesn't affect your outcomes as a player, right? I can ignore all of that information and it doesn't make any difference to my outcomes. So it's not complexity, it's complicatedness. It's the appearance of complexity. It's something that initially looks, oh wow, look, there's loads of numbers on the screen. And there are entire genres where this is the norm, right? Like gacha games have this in spades. Loads and loads of stats, loads of stats. And it's really just a case of like, have you leveled your thing up higher? Okay, it will do more damage. And those are games that just reward spending a lot of time in them rather than actually thinking about what you're doing moment to moment. I don't think the people that play indie deck builders want that kind of like mid-core, casual but fake hardcore experience, which is what you get with those kind of gacha games where it's like loads of numbers on the screen, loads of pretend complexity that doesn't really result in making any interesting decisions as you play them, right? I think the core idea of this could work. I think the idea of having a deck builder, you choose one of two things every round, and then something happens on the battlefield, it could work. but you're taking a lot of interesting complexity away, and I don't feel like it's been replaced in a way that's interesting, right? I would rather play something like, like Clash Royale has that structure. Clash Royale is like a relatively casual mobile game, but you're using your cards to drop units on the battlefield, and then they're doing something autonomously. This is just each card is either doing a certain amount of damage to the enemy, or modifying the enemy, what they can do, or adding to your damage. And because the consequences of playing the wrong card at the wrong time are not very strong, it's really just a matter of, do you beat the enemy and take 50 damage, or do you beat the enemy and take 100 damage because you clicked slightly slower or something? And I think the thing that's particularly damning with this design is, if I hadn't played the way I just did and just clicked through randomly, I probably would have taken more damage because of all of the timer-based mechanics in this. So yeah, it just doesn't fundamentally work for me, and I think it's more implementation of the idea than the idea itself. I think you can have a real-time deck builder, but it needs to test your situational awareness. It needs to go, you're fighting this type of enemy, and they're about to do this. What are you going to do about it? And we have some of what's needed for that to work is here. We've got the enemies do telegraph their moves. We've got a little counter of what the enemy's going to do and stuff like that. But because everything's based on a timer, you can't really time your moves to coincide with their moves in any meaningful way. I don't mind games that are real-time with pause. I've played a lot of those that I liked. I liked FTL. I like the old kind of Baldur's Gate style CRPGs that are real-time with pause. I think it can work. But the issue with the timer-based combat in this is, like, right, when the enemy does attacks, they get like a queue of abilities over here, right? But because these queues are all based on a little kind of League of Legends ability type timer, I can never really time my cards to coincide with them doing a specific thing over here. And that's a problem because, again, coming back to Slay the Spire, the enemy telegraphing their move has a lot of meaning there. It determines what type of thing you do on your turn, whether you do something defensive or offensive. And here, this timer up here and telling us what the enemy is going to do, I mean, it doesn't really tell us what that ability is. It just gives us a timer for when they're going to attack. That doesn't provide enough to chew on in terms of like situational awareness for me to be making interesting judgments, right? So whether or not I win the combat is really not a matter of anything apart from, do I play my cards and do I play them quickly? If I just stop playing cards, I'll die. And if I just play cards totally randomly, then I'll win. I feel like a lot of time was spent on this, but I also think that all the random bits of AI art just point towards a general laziness that is just... I know I'm being particularly negative on this one, but this is really the type of project that I hate to see the most, because it indicates that someone has wasted a lot of time on doing things that are not really, they're not necessary yet in terms of the life cycle of this project, because they've made a whole meta game for a game that doesn't need it yet. They made loads of content for a game that doesn't need it yet, and they've used kind of AI slop stuff to do that. And I suppose one of the reasons why it bothers me when I see a game in this kind of state is it kind of shows a lack of respect for players. I think if you make a game in isolation for a very long time and you never like look outside of yourself for an idea of whether the game works or not, there's a degree of arrogance to that. And I know for a lot of people it just comes from a place of naivety of like, oh, I thought playtesting was a thing you did when you finished your game. You know, I've never read a game design book. I didn't realise that finding the fun is like a thing that you do as a game designer early in the process so you can see if your game is even a good idea. But there's a degree of arrogance with that. It's kind of like the equivalent of like going into a studio and spending thousands of pounds on recording a massive album and like mastering it and everything, and you've never played any of the songs to anyone to see if it like resonates with them or if there's anything there worth pursuing. And I don't know why people do this. It's like you're making an interactive thing. Like, have people interact with it a lot before you start adding loads of stuff. And maybe it's that people are doing that. People are playtesting their thing. It's just they're in communities of yes men that just look at this and they go, yeah, that looks like a video game. I can see damage numbers and icons and stuff. And no one's really like testing the kind of core mechanics of the thing out in a really rigorous way. So I should heal, but I just don't care enough. You died! Here's the card that killed you. See, this is the first time I've been given the full context of what the enemy's going to do. Right, we'll give it a little bit more of a serious run, but... Oh, another font. Yeah, we'll give this one another little run. I will try and play more thoughtfully this time, but the game is not really requiring me to, and that's really a problem. But I will also shut up about it. Okay. Static marker. Deals lightning damage when the effective character cues a card. Okay, so I'm going to put a static marker on one of these characters, and then I'm going to just attack the other one. Also, I'm clicking and dragging these onto enemies, and there's not really anything to show that the targeting is happening. So I click on slash, I drag it over to one of them, and it's not like highlighting them or anything like that. There's a lot of a care gone into the actual attack animations and making those feel juicy, so I can't criticize it there, but it just... There's some just basic UX stuff missing of like, who am I pointing this card at? If I do try and play it thoughtfully. Right, so I want to put a burn marker on one and then just do pure damage on the other. Okay, it does let me just click them. So that's going to do a burn marker. Who does it do it to? Does it just randomly choose one? Oh yeah, I can't choose targets either. So we're getting even less choice decisions. So the actual meta of this game is, if you read and pay attention to what you're doing, you die, and if you click randomly, you win. That's like the way that this whole game works. Oh. It's just so overly polished and still full of things that look like placeholder art, you know? That is kind of an important consideration, is like, if stuff is placeholder, you want people to know it's meant to be placeholder. And if you do this kind of weird middle ground of like, oh, well, there's a random piece of AI here for no reason, and that low-res thing on the card in the last screen... So why is there this really inconsistent level of polish? Like, either put out a very low art demo and make it very clear that it's placeholder, or polish everything to the same standard. Yeah, unfortunately, this is the kind of game that I'm just going to probably clip a lot of this to be like a please don't make your game like this type video after this stream, because I get so frustrated. I get so frustrated with people just... Again, it really comes down to people thinking game development is like learning a game engine, having some art assets, and then just having an idea and rolling with it for as long as possible until your thing looks like a video game, rather than an iterative process of checking whether anyone finds your video game fun. And maybe some people have found this fun, but... if that's the case, I would try and find a community of playtesters that are not yes people, because it's just making me want to go and play Dota instead. That's cool, whatever that visual effect was. That was the slime blast. It was launching an acidic sludge at me. Right. It's starting to kill me now, so maybe I can pay a bit more attention, and maybe if I pause more... Right, so... I click on... oh yeah, I click on the spells. They play... I don't get to choose who they shoot at. I also can't activate them from pause, which is weird because I'd expect there to be a thing where I can click them and then they would like highlight and then I unpause and they cast. That would make sense. But I can only play them when they're totally unpaused. So lightning does a lot of damage but takes a longer time to charge up. But I might as well stick it in the queue because I'll get another chance to put a fire down now, so I get them both anyway. I also think that playing deck builders is fundamentally about like taking a set of things and combining them. And when you try and boil it down to draw 2 cards, play 1, there's not really any interesting interaction between the cards themselves. It's just a sequence of like what order do they go in, which is like basically I've got a random sequence of cards and then a 50% chance to pick each one myself. Those go into a play order, into like a queue. And that means that there's not really any interaction between my cards, right? Which is where the richness comes from in a deck builder. So Slash has a really low amount of damage, but I can play it every second. Thank you, Stanley, for actually analysing how the moves work, because I'm so I'm so heads up about the like core gameplay experience that I don't even care to look at what they do. But yeah, the magic is a lot more powerful. It has a slower cooldown, so once I've got one of these, it has to trigger and then 4 seconds for it to go back in the deck. So there are times when you do want to use the kind of physical weapon moves. And that was... I was able to kind of hush them and stop their spells then, which was probably quite good, seeing as these poison wormies are the only thing that seem to keep killing me. It's a champion. It's also not really a queue because they don't have an order to them, do they? It's like they just trigger when they're ready. Not that that's a problem, but I just wouldn't call it a queue because that's mildly confusing. It's a very cool character concept. I like this kind of gunslinger with spells. And I like the monsters. And I like the world. Just... why do we have so many different art styles together? And the core gameplay idea, it's like... there's nothing wrong with trying to do something completely out there. And I think that's what people should do. But I just think you need to lay off developing all the rest of the content of your game until you've got that stuff on lock. Oh, I've got some boots. What do they do? I bet they do something completely unrelated to boots. Ah, a cowboy hat that does incinerate. I'm gonna take the cowboy hat because it's a cowboy hat. Oh, I don't meet the strength requirement. Great. Do I meet the strength requirement now? Cool. Leather boots. So I think it's if your items give you 2 of the same ability, then I think it doesn't it doesn't go on cooldown as often because you've got the card twice. I think that's how it works, but I do not care about the story. I just want to test the gameplay. I'm gonna die this time. But Hush triggers pretty immediately, which is good. You gonna kill me? Yeah. Every time I die, it's from being bitten. It's not actually. That massive, like, poison thing killed me earlier. Not all spells go together. A mixed bag of magic offers utility, but a mixed bag of magic does not offer synergy. Sometimes utility is the answer, sometimes synergy is the answer. I mean, yeah, but also a lot of this is based off of random loot. So I'm not really getting to a point where I have... Yeah, it does need a gauntlet testing mode, right? Just... give me a string of enemies and then a decision about my deck in between each set of enemies and nothing else. That's what this game should be tested with. Because it's like giving me advice on like how to improve my deck and stuff, and it's like, well, okay, but what choice do I have? I have, you know, I can choose to swap a fortify for a slash. Okay, we'll do that. We'll get rid of some of those basic things and replace like basic attacks that we don't use. So force markers increase the power of your other stuff. So where does that go? Okay, I'll use battle cry and fortify a bit more and see how we get on. Battle cry might be the one. But those force markers, they just amplify anything, it said. They like melee damage, magic damage. So again, we don't have that kind of tightness or specificity of how the cards interact. If it was like, here's a thing that does more lightning damage or whatever, then you could see how that would be strong with one card and weak with another. But I'll just check when it comes up again. But it's not. I'm not drawing it now. Add 3 force markers. For each force marker, increase magic, ranged, and melee attack power by 1. So yeah, it just increases the damage of whatever the next thing is. Who's this? Merchant. Do I want to visit the Wandering Merchant? Not really, no. Hello. I'm a pixel art merchant selling a range of things in a totally different art style. I want a gunslinger's hat. Take this. What else do you have? What are you buying? What are you selling? Do you have any magical boots? You have some jerky. Can I have some jerky? Put some jerky here. They give me a cure ability that only lasts once. So when I use that cure, it's going to go out of my deck. Got to heal now, though. I don't need to cure, so now the game is going to become a sort of weird mini game of trying not to click on my healing when I don't need it. I've got penetrating shot now, which takes a lot longer to get ready, but it's supposed to do way more damage. Now I've got a different set of stuff, it is starting to feel a little bit more like I'm trying to chain stuff together. Because it's like, okay, I can stack these debuffs or buffs first, and then I do my damage, and I'm going to do more damage. And I think that's a place where the real-timeness can help, because I can't spend too much time weighing up whether approach A or approach B maximizes the damage. So it kind of stops you from doing certain types of min-max thinking. Right? Which is, now we can kind of get into the space of thinking like, what does making a game like this real-time achieve? Well, it stops you from like mathing the entire game out, and maybe that's a good thing. That hush ability is really overpowered. Well, it's not overpowered, it's, you know, relevant for what it does, I guess. It's like a silence thing. I think I'm going to end it there for that one. I think we've seen a lot of what this one has to offer. I think out of the 3 games today, Time Cowboy is going to be my winner in terms of just how enjoyable it was. And I know as observers you might think, well, that was the ugliest game, probably. I think even the developer would be fine with me saying that that game was a bit ugly, Time Cowboy. Dracs over Dusk had some quite competent pixel art in it, and the last game looked kind of cool until you started to look at how inconsistent so much stuff was. But this was just the most enjoyable thing to do as an activity. Like, the first game was an action game, but it had this kind of, you know, base defense, repair things, put things down, and the problem with that really is that it just introduces all of these things that need to be very nicely designed from the point of view of the UX. Like, you know, this looks lovely. It looks nice. But the interaction of, like, what's it like to fix a window? What's it like to place a turret? There just wasn't enough there. There was a sound effect. You could loosely see what was going on, but just not enough clarity of, like, the interactions that you're having. And that's a shame, because this is kind of cool. Time Cowboy had a lot of fun with that. And yeah, I just be interested to see where that one goes. Very weird getting used to the jumping in this, but I just feel like this is the type of game that I would happily just play all the way through. Like, I can play it for 10 minutes and go, yeah, I would play hours of this. And it's because it's not trying to do anything lofty. It's just executing on its core idea well, which is about, like, motion and, you know, again, sort of situational awareness. What gun do I use? Is it better to run in and punch? All of that kind of stuff. It's not to say that that's easier to do. It's just, I think when your game is only trying to do 2 or 3 things very well, then you don't have as much to worry about, because you can just concentrate on executing those things well. And then this game is incredibly ambitious. And yeah, I think it just needed a longer time of preparing it before worried about this, you know, before we worried about this. Like, if you're making a deck builder, I said this the other day. Like, if I was prototyping a deck builder, I would be concentrating on the piloting of the cards for a very long time before I even made the cards buildable. You know, like, what am I doing? What am I doing in the game if my deck of cards is always the same thing? How do the moment-to-moment decisions, like, play out with that same set of cards? And I think if this had been developed in that way, then you probably would have caught a lot of the problems of it early on. But it's just ploughing forward with an idea and over polishing it really, really quickly, really for a long period of time, rather than just making sure the core of the idea really works. I did feel like when we swapped out some of the items, it started to feel a bit more interesting when I wasn't just spamming the same spells. But it also made me feel like there were just certain spells that were just better to have all the time. Yeah, exactly. Prototype it on paper. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you can even just sometimes you can prototype a game idea you have using normal playing cards. You can say, okay, the clubs are attack and the hearts are healing or whatever, and you can kind of check the flow of your game using those. Or using Tabletop Simulator or something like that. That is a tool everyone should have, I think. If you're making turn-based games of any sort, I think you should have Tabletop Simulator. Because I've made a few board games in my time, never released them, but the thing with Tabletop Simulator is it's often quicker to iterate on here than it is to, like, print stuff out. And if you've got lots of, like, cards you need to change or something like that very frequently, you can just tweak them on here very, very fast. And it also has a table flip option, which is the most important thing. That's all anyone cares about. Oh yeah, here's a game from 2023. And you can like, yeah, load in little 3D objects and test the game with those. But the table flip is really the most important thing about this game. About this engine. Hey, it didn't work. Maybe my table is unflippable. Don't know how I achieved that. It's also great because there's I think there's a way to flick these. This is peak game dev. There I am. Look, I'm over there. Ah, yeah, you found the flicking icon. I thought there was a keyboard shortcut for it. Right, I want to show you guys this game I've been working on since 2023. This is what you do in this game. So I'm there, that's me. And then you have to flick cubes at me. I'm still working on the flicking mechanic. Just not very strong. Can't get enough reach. I need some kind of ramp. Maybe if I can put some kind of ramp down. Like a chessboard or something. Maybe I can kick it off of that somehow. No, that's not going to work. There we go. Mission complete. So this is my new game. It's called Flicking Cubes at Myself. It's an art game about the... It's an art game about the futility of trying to escape your own self-criticism. And it's like a metaphor. There we go. And if you get one of these cubes in my eye, you win the game. And if you get one of the cubes to land on the edge like that, then you get a wizard instead. And then you get to flick a wizard at me. Like that. Please remind me not to accidentally save this project like this. I was playing a game on here once with someone I know in real life, and you can do this thing where you can if you hover over an object, you can make it bigger or smaller by pressing minus and plus. And it was like a dungeon crawl type game. And whenever my friend wasn't looking and they were doing... Because you can kind of see where other people are looking as you play games. Whenever he was playing, like doing something over there, I would sneak over to his piece and make it like 1 unit smaller like that. And then I would go and play normally. So da-da-da-da-da. And I would come back. Make it 1 unit smaller. So that like 30 minutes later, like everyone else's unit is you know, normal size and theirs is tiny. That's how you make art in this day and age. Thank you, Sean. Yeah, it does belong in a museum. That's true. Right, I shall see you all next time, folks. Angry Indie Doctor by Rovio. It's gonna get a movie version, an ill-advised movie of it. Thanks for showing up. I'll see you all soon. Next week, what have we got next week on this? What are we doing next time? Next time, it's gonna be. We've had Wild West. We've got a thing about tutorials and onboarding next week, which is going to echo some of what I said today. And then Neon Punk Games, which is games where things are bright pink and bright blue, I think. Just games that had that kind of aesthetic where it's not quite, it's kind of Tron. It's not quite cyberpunk. It's stuff that is happening in a computer that is brightly coloured. A couple of things like that next week. So and then the community monthly, which is just games from our Discord members. So thank you to everyone who's part of the Discord and helps out over there or contributes in some way. It is wonderful to have you on board. And I will be checking out some of your games. I think we've only got we don't have loads of sign-ups for that this time, but we'll see. That is the 30th. When is that? That is a week on Monday, so that is not for a little while. All right, thanks, folks. See you.